Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about Wednesdays being the new Fridays. We'll also be talking about what's coming up to Disney Plus in the US in July. We'll also be sharing our thoughts on some of this week's Disney Plus originals, including Luca, Loki, A Bad Batch, and also the finale of Big Shot. We'll also be throwing in some discussion about Wolfgang and also Love Victor. So, before we go into any of that, quick bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you go check out what's on at disneyplus.com. Favorite, like, join the newsletter, join us on social media, keep up with all of our latest stories. You can also follow us here on YouTube, and you can follow us on audio platforms such as Spotify, iTunes, etc. Also, a big thank you and for all the support from our YouTube channel members and patrons who make sure that this podcast and our channel is supported regardless of what goes on with advertising and stuff like that, and make sure we can all carry on. So a huge thank you for them. You can support us from as little as $2 a month, and a huge thank you first off to Sarah for being at the platinum level. Thank you very much for your support. Also, thank you to Andrew, Jacob, Caleb, Resmars, man, Andrew, Cody, Darren, the Juice, Lester, Lauren, and James for their supports in the diamond and gold brackets, and also the same thing for YouTube for Bad Dog Gaming, Johnny, J Blue, Amet, Angels Army, Raphael, My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua, Adam, Dawn, Martin, and Jeremy. Thank you very much for all of your support and in everything. So let's jump into it. So there's been quite a few big bits of news this week. So we'd kind of heard of obviously Wednesdays being the new Fridays. It was something that they did for the Loki launch with them moving over, and it has proven to be very successful, as Loki was the most watched Disney Plus premiere they've had so far. Not a huge surprising. Every time they do a new show, they've got more people than they had last time. But also, I still think Loki's a much bigger character than Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision. So it kind of makes sense at that point. But they have now seemed to have committed to the idea of moving pretty much all of their new Disney Plus original series over to Wednesdays. So they have announced, for example, that Turner and Hooch has moved over to Wednesdays, Monsters at Work, and they've also moved some of the other Disney Plus originals like Chippendale Park Life, The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse, Turning the Tables. They've all shifted over to Wednesdays in July. The only thing is, our original movies are going to be dropping on Fridays. So Stuntman and Playing with Sharks will drop on Fridays in July. And also the Bad Batch, High School Musical, and the Benedict Society will be launching on Fridays as they have been planned. That's probably just going to keep that going. I also wonder as well if it's a little bit of a test. They can see how well they perform if they've got them going out on different days. So while they've moved everything to Wednesdays, I wouldn't be at all surprised if it's like, well, actually, we're going to monitor it a little bit and see how we do with splitting these up a little bit. So yeah, so Wednesdays, we are now going to be getting a lot of new content dropping on Wednesdays. In the UK as well, we've had the list drop. And it's not just in the US, we're now also getting some of the new shows are going to be dropping on Wednesdays. For example, we're going to be getting American Dad season 17, and season 9 of Last Man Standing will start dropping on Wednesdays, and they're also dropping some library content as well. So the UK is already jumped in and started making the most of having 2 days to spread everything out. Haven't yet had the Canada or Australia lists to see what's going on there, but I suspect it'll be something similar. But what do you think of this big shift over to Wednesdays?
Um, I think it's good. I think that having these things spread out will give some more attention to the smaller programs.
Mm.
Obviously, it's really good to have that midweek launch for the major programs. It gets the talk going. I'm not sure it won't impact the overall watching of the big shows, but it might spread out people watching them on the day it drops versus say the weekend. Because a lot of people work midweek and they don't really have time even after work to watch these. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in regard to like the water cooler talk for these movies, especially as, at least in America, a lot of the offices are starting to go back.
Yeah, see, I thought it could go the other way, where obviously, like say, like Loki drops on the Wednesday, and then the spoiler kind of opens up on the Friday, and so then anyone that kind of got the whole weekend then to catch up, and essentially you've got that choice. You might want to watch it on a Thursday night. You've got these choices of, I don't, rather than, I think we were getting in that situation of we are now going to be getting multiple shows a week, and we're going to be getting multiple shows a week pretty much now constant. There's no more going back to one show. That was so spreading them out makes so much more sense. But also, I can't help but feel like they've positioned away from Fridays because movies are coming back. They got the big movies. We've had like Luca this week. In July we've got Jungle Cruise on a Friday. We've got Black Widow on a Friday. It seems funny that they've shifted the other two movies on to Fridays as well and kept them going. And I'm wondering if they're kind of thinking like Fridays are when they want to release the movies and have all the focus on that, especially if this Premier Access thing becomes standard. If this becomes their standard go-to, Friday, obviously they can drop library content, but they can put all of their focus of their PR marketing on those movies, which is big. You can, they're going to be promoting everything anyway, but I'm really starting to wonder now if, especially with the 20th Century Studio movies, we had like Vacationing with Friends, that's going to be coming at the end of August on a Friday, the Hulu and Disney Plus internationally. We're starting to see maybe a shift that way.
It's possible, but I mean, movies have been traditionally released on Friday for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure when that trend came around, but it's definitely been for my entire lifetime, or at least as far as I've known. So whereas they control like Loki, Chip and Dale, and so on, they can do whatever they want with those. Whereas if they start releasing movies on Tuesday or Wednesday, they're really changing the entire release schedule for all movies, not just theirs. And I think they're not ready to do that. Now, some people will point out there are exceptions. There have been times when movies have launched on a Tuesday or something like that in the summer, but
I was going to say,
traditionally it's Friday.
I generally go, I think Thursdays were generally the day quite often I'd go because it'd be like early previews and stuff. But it generally, like you say, Fridays is kind of the big one.
They still announce them as Thursdays as the pre-release or the early screenings. The official launch is always Friday. And even so, it's normally the big movies. Obviously, Black Widow has a Thursday launch, I know, because my ticket is for Thursday. But most movies are still the first time you get to see them is on that Friday.
But I just feel like, with this whole, like, with that shift, it does kind of, the thing is, well, Disney Plus pretty much has nearly had 18 months. It launched in obviously November 2019, and it only really had like 3-6 months of like cinema releases. Obviously, we saw with Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, they shifted The Mandalorian away to a Wednesday for that, so they have done that in the past. And then obviously, February onwards, just we didn't have that anymore, and so Disney Plus pretty much then had a whole year, a year and a half, where it's not had to kind of compete with cinema. And so like now, obviously they'll have got some data from Raya and also Cruella, and they're starting to see. I don't know. I've got a feeling that Premier Access might not quite be going. I know they all want to go back to cinemas, but I thought if they want to push that big movie on a Friday, that's going to be the one they're going to want to do.
I don't think it hurts them to continue to have Premier Access as an option available. Most people, I think, are still going to want to go to the theater, especially individuals like me. And it makes no financial sense for me to buy the early access, but families might, and giving them the option isn't a bad thing. Now, obviously, the theaters are going to push back, and especially with what will hopefully be a recovery process for the theaters right now, they're going to want to get as much money back in as possible. But it is kind of a new reality situation going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all in that situation of things were changing even before all of this happened. There was already push on things to be quicker, and they wanted it, and everything's changed, and so now they've been able to kind of restart, basically, kind of with much shorter windows. It's kind of funny because Searchlight Pictures' Summer of Soul, that's going to be coming out on July the 2nd in the US and Canada in cinemas, and it'll also be available on Disney Plus in Canada and on Hulu in the United States. Whereas over here in the UK, it's been announced that cinema are getting it on the 18th of July, and they're getting like a 2-week window before it hits Disney Plus, I think, then on the 30th of July or 28th. So we're already getting, like, we're seeing changes in how they're doing this whole kind of situation with releases. But yeah, it's definitely, for me, I don't think now, and especially with all the star content, because I think that's definitely an interesting thing for us as well, is Fridays was becoming like, they were dropping 10 to 15 series new episodes on a Friday, so splitting them up into two is actually better for the UK or for the international market as well. I just know, like on a Friday, it's like, okay, what do I watch first? I mean, I'm
Right.
lucky in the same way that, I'd already watched Big Shot in advance. So I'd already seen that one. So I didn't, and I'd already seen Luca. So I was already like ahead in the fact of trying to watch stuff. So I know that feeling of being able to watch stuff midweek, but also like suddenly then I want to watch Grownish, High School Musical, The Bad Batch, there's all these different shows that we wanted to watch. And some of them, are going to be, you want to watch them fast for spoilers, like Bad Batch was like obviously the first one. But there are other shows which you're like, oh, I'll get around to it. And I don't know, like Wednesdays might just help spread those shows out a little bit more. But I definitely feel like this is definitely going to be a shift. We're seeing it in July, and yeah, I don't see this as a negative at all, because it's just spreading out. And if some shows might still launch on Fridays, I know they've shifted them all off, but they've still got 3 shows dropping every single Friday right through July anyway. So it's not like there's nothing on a Friday.
I would expect that they'll continue with Friday drops on shows for quite some time, and not just the library content or the star content. I think that it will continue to be a decision that they make on individual shows. Like smaller shows, some of the ones that we joke about came out during quarantine.
Yeah.
All the various kids game shows that came and went very quickly. If they were to release those now, I suspect they would continue to be Friday drops, even on into like 2022. But we'll wait and see. Obviously, Star is a bit of a unique situation at the moment. Eventually, you guys will catch up with the Hulu content.
Yeah.
Or they might keep some stuff back for a while. But that like 9 or 10 items per week will definitely slow down at some point.
Well, I don't know if it's actually going to slow down, because essentially what's happening is you see it in Australia. I mean, Australia's not only are they getting Star content, but they're also getting new episodes of Grey's Anatomy, Station 19, Bob's Burgers, American Dad. You're going to start getting you're getting those network shows as those contracts run out. And we saw like with like the UK now getting 2 shows that would have been on Fox, that have now shifted over. So you're going to see more of that. And then especially when all the FX shows start kicking in that aren't under existing contracts, and also, like in August, we're getting Walking Dead on a Monday. We're going to start seeing multiple drops a week. I mean, personally, I think this is great. I think this is, you see it, Netflix does it, where they drop stuff different days and stuff. But I think Disney Plus is at that point now, it has enough content. That's the key thing. It has enough content to do it. When we're on the back of the days of what's out this week, Lamp Life.
Yeah. Well, I hope those days are gone. The point being, though, that a lot of what's dropping on Star right now is stuff that's been on Hulu or been syndicated a while ago. The stuff, I don't know how long it'll take, but at some point when we're talking about the new drops every week, it will be new content, period. And we'll have to come up with a term that might already be an existing term for the shows that air and then immediately or very quickly end up on Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever. I'm sure there's probably already a term out there, but we'll have to decide what we want to call it.
It's like the July list. I mean, you're seeing this already. Disney are already starting to play around with the release schedules of the National Geographic and the Disney Channel stuff. For the very first time this past week, Disney put out a press release about Spidey and His Amazing Friends, not the 1980s version, but the kids' preschool version, and also Mickey Mouse Funhouse. And they literally, in the press release, stated that a further release will be available on Disney Plus after it's aired. And I can't remember a single Disney Plus mention in a Disney Channel press release before. This is kind of like, okay, we're in the, and also the new shorts of these new ones are dropping in July, when about a week after they've aired on the Disney Channel. And we're seeing it with Sydney to the Max. They're dropping like 8 episodes at once. I think they're just doing that next week in the US, and then they're going to do it again in July with the rest of, they are speeding up the process of how these shows are arriving. We're seeing it with Gordon Ramsay Uncharted at the minute. They're arriving a few days later on the Fridays. You're starting to see this shift over. And I suspect something will happen again internationally for us when National Geographic is kind of rumored also to be, maybe on the chopping block as a channel. We're seeing this shift, and maybe that's also coming to the idea of their thinking with these Fridays. If they've got television shows to drop as well, even more content.
Yeah, it's basically it's a problem with too much stuff coming in at a
Speaking
certain
of too,
amount.
yeah, and speaking of too
Let's
much
talk
stuff,
July.
let's talk July. So we're going to focus primarily on the US list. So obviously we're getting new episodes of High School Musical, the musical the series, Star Wars: The Bad Batch, and the Mysterious Benedict Society. We're getting new episodes every Friday. But also on July the 2nd, and also you were getting Gordon Ramsay Uncharted. I'll say that one now. So we're getting Disney Junior's Mixed Up Adventures. That one's been a bit of an odd one because that one's kind of like a third season that should have been out a while ago. Season 4 of Raven's Home and Sandlot 1 and 2. Then on Wednesday, they're getting it's. See, this is the thing of I need to. I'm just going to bring up the other one because the US list and they've set out 2 lists, and they've both got one of them's got library content dropping on the Wednesday, one of them doesn't. So I just we've got like Breaking Bones. So that one there is dropping as well. We've also got new episodes, obviously, of Monsters at Work. They're going to be dropping right through on Wednesdays throughout July. And that's for everybody. We've got 2 more episodes of Loki dropping. There'll be a new Marvel's Legends dropping about Black Widow, dropping 2 days before the film does, which will be on Friday, July the 9th, where we're also getting Flicker. The Miraculous World Shanghai, The Legend of the Lady Dragon. And then a load of shark documentaries. If there's one thing we're not going to be short of in July for anybody, is shark documentaries. There is about, I think, about 10 in the US, and we're getting probably about the same in the UK at least. So one of the ones I do want to watch is Shark Beach with Chris Hemsworth. We're also going to be getting, as I said, Black Widow. I'll be dropping Premier Access. So with Jungle Cruise at the end of the month. On July the 14th, again, we're just going to be getting. See, it's listed here is Disney Junior's Mini Bow Toons. So this is what's really annoying me with the list is I've got 2 lists, and that show all the library content is being split between Wednesdays and Fridays. And now I'm like, well, which one is it? I have reached out for clarification because they've got 2 different lists. We've also got We Brought a Zoo dropping on July the 16th. And then we've got Turner and Hooch dropping on the 21st of July with new episodes dropping every Wednesday. Plus Behind the Attraction, so we've got 10 episodes all dropping at once, all about the Disney attractions, so Disneyland. We spoke last week about this one. So they've shifted this one back and Turner and Hooch back to that Wednesday. So that's disappointing that's been moved back, but that makes sense. And then we're going to get a Marvel Studios Assembled, the making of Loki. Moving on to Friday, July the 23rd in the US, again, Ice Age to Meltdown, Walking with Dinosaurs, and another shark documentary. And then on July the 28th, we're also getting Turning the Tables with Robin Roberts, all 4 episodes. And then those new episodes of Chippendale Park Life and the 2nd season of The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse. We're getting 2 shorts because that was what was confirmed on the UK list. While on July the 30th, along with Jungle Cruise, we're getting Garfield and Built for Mars, the President's Rover. Lots of stuff, and like I said, there was a little bit of confusion in terms of how some of these library content are releasing due to just Disney just sending out 2 completely different lists. But yeah, and also in the UK, like I said, we're getting other shows. We're getting like Race to the Center of the Earth that'll be dropping. We're getting loads of new movies. The Walking Dead, we're getting that on July the 2nd, 10 seasons. The Golden Girls, we're getting that one as well. So lots of different content dropping right through July. What jumped out from you from the US list?
Mostly the shows. Obviously, the shark content looks great. And I don't know which ones I'll watch. Probably the Chris Hemsworth one, but the bull shark one looks pretty good too. But again, primarily it's the shows. Bad Batch, Mysterious Benedict Society, all sorts of stuff like that. And then, of course, Jungle Cruise, Black Widow.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's hard to pick stuff out. A lot of the library content I've already seen, though.
Yeah, see, the thing is with the library content is it's kind of, again, especially with the US list, is it's either Disney Channel shows or sharks.
All for the sharks.
The Breaking Bobby Bones show, something I might want to check that one out because I've got no idea who he is or what it's about, but at least it's not a shark. I mean, I love
apparently he's a stuntman, I guess.
Yeah. We've also got Stuntman as well dropping, which should be fun. I mean, that one's been floating around for a few years, but it's nice to see that one kind of coming in line. But again, for me, the US library content this month is probably one of the poorest I've seen. There's nothing. There's no classic movies. There's a few random movies that have been taken off and put back on. There's like Garfield and Ice Age and Meltdown are not big hits. It would have been nice to have seen something a little bit older in there. I know there's a lot of people complaining about the lack of library content, because if you look at this one here and you take away the sharks and you take away the Disney Channel stuff, there actually isn't anything left. And that's kind of an issue I think they need to be aware of, which is, it's a shame. I mean, you've got so many movies from 20th century, from their history and from Disney's history, and they're just not, at least one or two old movies a month would be at least something from the vote. But that's my only criticism of the list so far.
Yeah, I have to wonder if they've looked at some numbers and gone, it's not really worth the effort for the library content, for the old library content, because a lot of them need to be digitized, a lot of them need to be upscaled. I know there's still some that were done that way for Disney Now and previous apps, but a lot of the content just isn't ready for streaming. And I wonder if they've said like the amount of effort that it would take to clean up these movies is not worth it for the number of people who would watch it. And it's pure speculation.
I mean, I'm gonna kind of edge on that same bet, really. For me, I view that the problem is, like with the library content, is it doesn't pull in numbers, it doesn't pull in the big enough numbers, and also it doesn't hit the nail like the same way that you can see what they're doing with their TV shows, where they are just bouncing new stuff. You think of all the shows that they're making for those networks, and then you put them all onto Disney Plus. That's a lot of content that they're creating, and that's what's driving people onto this. The bulk of their big titles are already on there. Obviously you're getting little bits and pieces dropping over from previous streaming contracts. Maybe they're just holding that stuff back for when the streaming, when they've run out of the HBO deal, so they can kind of keep dropping a movie. Maybe they're just looking like, well, we'll drop like a movie a week or something like that, and that's their schedule. And they're thinking, well, things like Garfield and Ice Age and Walking with Dinosaurs, etc., is enough to give them one a week. Maybe that's just a simple platform that they. It is annoying because sometimes you get some big ones, but it's like when they put things like the Muppet Show or something like that on, there's nothing really big hitting it. I mean, they put Star Wars Droids on Disney Plus yesterday, and they didn't even kind of promote it. They just kind of dropped it.
It's not even on the like what's new tab.
No.
They just kind of stuck it in there. To be fair, Star Wars Droids is probably not one of the ones that you really want to wave around too much. I mean, it's not a bad series, but there's certainly nothing particularly outstanding. From personal experience, I know like up until Disney Plus launched, there was a decent amount of library content from the 90s that was almost impossible to get proper access to. Things like Rescue Rangers, Gargoyles, the Aladdin animated show, things like that. So while they're available now, there were definitely times it's like, man, I would have watched Gargoyles if it was available, but it wasn't, at least not in a reasonable way.
It's definitely, I think that we're like with movies, obviously you can see it a lot more with the trending and what people are watching. But it is a strange thing with like the library content. I will be honest, I was a little bit disappointed with, and I could see the criticism, and I'm thinking, yeah, no, I agree with you. If you take the shark stuff, kind of, with Shark Fest, is like, you guys could spread this out a little bit better. We could have had maybe one shark documentary a week.
Then it's not a fest, though. It's a long term.
I don't know. It just kind of feels a little. I don't think it helps with them dropping the old stuff with the new stuff.
That's true.
It's like if just dropped all the new stuff now, and then that would have been all right. But I think it's just dropping all the old stuff in with the new stuff makes it look even worse. But I mean, I love shark documentaries, but even I'm not going to watch 9 of them in a day.
and it's kind of interesting because like nature documentaries too, it's not always all that valuable to go back to the older ones.
No.
Because
technology.
You look at them and you're like, well, we didn't know as much then, and there might even be just blatant misinformation in them. Whereas you would hope that current documentaries at least reflect what we know now. Obviously, 10 years from now, we'll go, oh man, that documentary, it was totally wrong on bull sharks in this way or other.
Yeah.
But for our current knowledge, it's generally going to be more entertaining. Also, the photography is going to be, I hesitate to say better, because some of the old ones have some beautiful photography, but they've got better equipment to better capture it. I'm using the word better a lot here.
Yeah.
there's something to be said. Superior. There's something to be said for that crystal clear quality that you get now, as opposed to like the Jacques Cousteau documentaries, which were fantastic, but he was shooting them on cameras, from his time period. They look different than cameras now.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed that they didn't do, like, I think Secrets of the Whales wasn't 4K, but that's my own thing. Right. So that was July list. So we kind of go for that. A couple of quick news bits as well before we jump into the reviews. Now Disney has officially greenlit Beauty and the Beast, the limited musical series, which is a prequel to the 2017 movie. And it was obviously see LeFou and Gaston return, plus Brianna Middleton will be joining the cast as Tilly, who is LeFou's stepsister, and they go on an adventure together. Nice to see that on Greenlit. It was a bit along the lines of, well, didn't we get this at the streaming event that it was, but now they've officially like moved into it. It's like, oh right. So it's nice to see that one. That one, I mean, they're only going to start filming that next year, so this one might not be arriving for a while yet.
Yeah, it depends on how much special effects, because if Beast is not in it, hopefully the special effects won't be too high. But that it could be 2023 before we see that.
See, I'm really looking forward to when we start getting some like Disney fantasy series, things like Percy Jackson, Willow, this Beauty and the Beast one, where we start getting something like not necessarily aimed in high school. That would be quite, from the Disney side, that would be quite a nice aspect.
We'll be talking about high school a lot today.
Yeah, so there we go. So that one there. We also had it officially announced this week that the Beatles Get Back, a documentary that was originally supposed to come to cinemas, I think, last year. Then they got pushed back to August this year. Well, now it's been pushed back again, but this time it's shifting over to Disney Plus. It'll be coming on Thanksgiving weekend on November the 25th, 26th, and 27th. Though I will state this: take those dates with a pinch of salt, because they've moved every single date they've announced in advance pretty much so far. But yeah, I think Thanksgiving is probably pretty safe. Rather than being a 2-hour movie, now it's 3 2-hour episodes. I don't think Peter Jackson could do the editing, and as we've known with Lord of the Rings, he doesn't like to edit sometimes.
See, I would hold King Kong up as the he doesn't like to edit proof, honestly.
He does like to do long editions, and the fact that I think this is a win-win-win. We're getting a series of 3 episodes now. It's 6 hours of content. We're cut from like hundreds of hours of content. I'm interested in this one here in terms of, I think had it been like the one movie, I think I was like, yeah, I'll see it. 3 episodes is now like, well, it's going to depend on how I like the first episode, because that's going to be the key thing. Obviously breaking over the Thanksgiving weekend, interesting choice, but kind of makes sense. I mean, I think that will be going alongside Enchantico, which will be coming to cinemas around the same time. So there's quite a different audience. So I don't think that's a bad thing. So I thought that was obviously big news. Again, it's kind of odd to go from an original. I think we'd all been saying for the last year, going, this makes so much more sense as a Disney Plus show or a movie, because I think it will get more audience as like that.
It's not even necessarily more audience. It's how it gets that audience, because it's the kind of thing where you can go to your parents and go, hey, there's a new Beatles documentary, and they're like, oh, I watched the Beatles when I was a kid, or something like that, and you get them into Disney Plus that way, because they may not have. But now you have this family activity, especially in America, with it being Thanksgiving weekend. Families all want something to do, so being able to watch maybe not 6 hours, but at least a couple hours of Beatles content, it's a good little marketing scheme. And it reminds me a bit of the Imagineering story as well. It was originally supposed to be a movie, and then we watched the 6 episodes, and that was like, man, if they'd cut this down to a 2-hour movie, we would have lost so much from this.
So definitely I'm interested in this one, and I kind of look at it and go, this is just I never would have gone to the cinema to watch this. This is just not, I mean, to go to I mean, how many people go to the cinema to watch a documentary anyway? And also the budgets are much smaller, so therefore they make more sense as a streaming product, and just in general. Speaking of documentaries, before we jump into this week's one, I just want to talk a little bit about Wolfgang, which is a brand new Disney Plus original documentary that will be coming next Friday. Next Friday on the 25th. This was shown off originally at the Tribeca Film Festival last weekend. I have got to see it. I did put up my written review last weekend. And I'm going to be honest, Wolfgang is it's a great documentary to introduce you to who he is, but also if you are aware of who he is, just kind of about his life, how he started, how he got into the business, how he kind of grew through the business, then also moving on to television, then his other empires, his restaurants, kind of then go into some of the problems that he had because he got too successful and trying to do too many things, and obviously his family life suffered. But generally as a whole, I thought it was very interesting because I'd seen Wolfgang at Disney World, and I think I've seen it when I've been traveling around, but never ate there, never seen anything about it. And again, because he wasn't on television and here in the UK growing up, wasn't really too familiar with him. But I don't think I watched this documentary. Like I enjoyed as well the aspect of him talking about the business side of running, of like how it all worked and all the rest of it, because as someone who has run a cafe, nowhere near on his level, I'm going to be honest, my cooking is nowhere near his level.
You heard it here first, guys. Roger thinks he's Wolfgang Puck 2.0.
Wolfgang Puck, there's no chance. More like from the Tiny Toons. It's definitely so I enjoyed that whole aspect of it. It's about 70-80 minutes. It's not a really long one. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. But it's not going to be for everyone. It's going to find a certain audience. I did actually get to speak with Wolfgang this past week about the documentary. There will be a video going up probably over the weekend. And he one of the key things he brought up was about the fact of getting to a younger audience. That was because they were already filming, they were already making the documentary, and they went to Disney Plus because of the company they were working with. But they wanted to get to a younger audience. They wanted to reach a bigger audience, and I think that was one of the key things about this one here. So again, this one will be coming up next week. We'll talk about it a little bit if James gets to watch it next week. But if you're interested in cooking and restaurants and about him as a whole, this is a great documentary. If you've got no interest in any of that, then it's not going to be for you. But it was quite a nice, I would say, a palate changer. It was quite a nice kind of with everything else that we've been watching, I just kind of enjoyed just watching something completely different away from this one here. So that one I thought was a really interesting documentary about, and this is nice for them to do something completely, just pick, and it would, they did go into some of the harder details. It didn't sugarcoat everything, and I kind of enjoyed that.
It looks like it'll be an interesting one. I'm not really huge into cooking shows, but I'm going to check it out anyway. Again, like you said, it's a bit of a change, and as we'll talk about in the reviews, there's been a bit of a sameness in some of the Disney Plus content lately. One thing it's worth pointing out, especially for a younger audience, is while his name might not be as well known, he really did lay the groundwork for a lot of what we would call the celebrity chefs of today.
They just basically wouldn't have been he was like one of the first ones. We wouldn't have Gordon Ramsay and Jamie Oliver and all these other ones without what he did before it, because up till then it was the restaurateur. The guy that owned the restaurant was the one that was the chef. Didn't matter. They were just, and of course now it's all shifted around, and now the chefs own, it's there, which kind of makes a lot more sense, really. Owning a restaurant, it's all very fine having all the prestige in it, but it's the guy at the back making it all and directing everything is where the magic happens. But no.
I suspect that previously there was just you put a recipe in front of the chef, and the chef cooks a recipe, and it has nothing to do with the chef. He's just assembling the pieces. And now there's each one has their signature dish, and they have their way of doing it. Even like a common dish that spaghetti, they've got their own way of doing it.
All I know is next time I'm going to Walt Disney World, or if I don't know if he's got I might be out in downtown Disney maybe first. I am going to eat. It's definitely a kind of thing. And I go right next time I see one, I want to go try some food there. So that's.
So you're going to compare
I know he won't be cooking it, but
you'll be comparing the food they serve to the food you serve in the cafe and finding it wanting.
Yeah. My skills. Yeah, I could get an egg and bacon. That's basically it. Right. So, and I'm not joking.
That's more than I can cook.
Yeah. So now let's move on to this. So let's start off. We'll start off with Luca. What did you think of this one?
First off, are we doing spoilers on this one, or?
Yeah, we will do, because I think we'll be on spoilers for all of the reviews, because ultimately Luca's, I don't really know what's not been spoiled from the trailer, to be honest. It's a bit
I
kind
mean,
of,
the ending can be a little bit spoilery,
they
but
were kind of trying to, yeah. I mean, you
we'll
can see it
try.
all coming a mile off.
You can see most of it coming around. There
Yeah,
are actually some things about the ending I quite
yeah,
liked and that they didn't play into it, but we'll talk about
yeah,
that in a minute. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was a nice little, just kind of chill film. There was a little bit of conflict there, obviously, as the two friends, as they do in movies, had a misunderstanding or a disagreement in how things should proceed. But other than that, it was mostly just kind of like, yeah, we want to buy a Vespa. All right, we're gonna enter this race and we're gonna try and buy a Vespa with the winnings. And that was like the movie.
yeah,
Uh, most of the time it wasn't even about that. Most of the time it was just like, oh, humans are silly and
yeah,
we're good at catching fish. So it was just very
yeah.
chill.
I really enjoyed it because it felt very. I don't know if it's just a lack of the fact that we can't go anywhere. It was
What
just
was
kind of like,
that?
it was bright and sunny, and it felt like, that kind of, it gave off the vibrancy of just being in Italy. That it was beautifully color. I really thought that, it was sun shining, just the colors coming off of it. I thought it was a very lovely story. I'll be honest, this has been my favorite Pixar movie since Coco. And this, to me, was far better than Onward and whatever else we've had since. Even Soul. I mean, I just thought this was such a much more enjoyable movie. It was, like you say, you could sit down and enjoy it. About adventure, about being a kid and just kind of experiencing stuff for the very first time through a different lens. The whole like sea monster thing, I mean, you knew where it was going, and obviously turned up with the fact of they definitely couldn't have made this show in the movie set in the UK because it would been raining the whole time. um but generally as a whole, especially in the summer, it would have been, I don't know, I got to the end of that movie and I was like, I really enjoyed that. It was like, and I was sitting there going, I can't think of anything I didn't like about it. I've got no complaints. There's literally online, I know, right in the review, they go, you know what? There wasn't anything I got anything to say. It was just like, I enjoyed it, and it was just like, that's nice. It was just a nice, enjoyable movie.
The only complaint that I have, and it's really, really minor, was going back to that little argument that the two kids had about 2/3, 3/4 of the
Yeah,
way through the movie. They tried to paint it as both kids making
yeah,
a mistake, and I was like, no, the one kid who got outed as a monster
yeah,
was really in the wrong, and he was being a jerk. And it's like, I have no sympathy for your nonsense. But they really tried to paint it as, oh, well, I shouldn't have
throwing under the bus.
throwing it under the bus. I shouldn't have tried to save myself. And I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of see where you're coming from. But they played it up as like a major betrayal, and like, no, it was seriously a practical choice. If he had outed himself as a monster too, he'd be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
That was that is seriously my only complaint, though. It's like 10 minutes of the movie. The rest of it
yeah,
is just really fun.
yeah. I'm really hoping a lot of people check it out. It's just a great. I just thought it was just a really fun little movie. It's that kind of thing of, I can see why people might look at Soul and go, oh, that's a much more deeper movie and a bit more impactful. But Luca's just much more fun to watch, and I think kids are going to enjoy Luca so much more.
I mean, we talked about that with Soul,
Yeah,
where we're like, are kids even going to enjoy this? There's a couple
yeah,
of slapstick things
yeah,
right in the middle, especially with the cat in the human body and the human in the cat body, and that was about it. And but this one definitely, from start to finish, I think kids are going to enjoy it. Like you
yeah.
said, it's very colorful, which of course is going to engage. But there's plenty of just cute little gags, and
Mm.
they're not particularly deep, they're not particularly thought provoking, but they work.
Yeah, I just a really enjoyable movie, and I really can't state on that enough. It's like, I gave it a 5 because I was thinking, there's nothing, I can't, nothing. I literally was like, I can't think of a single thing I didn't like. There's nothing. I enjoyed it. I'm gonna watch it again because I want to watch it in 4K at some point over the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I enjoyed it. Great movie.
So this will be a spoiler in case anyone didn't run away earlier, but this is the ending of the movie. I really appreciated at the end when they properly get outed as monsters. The
Yeah.
villagers, like, for a couple seconds, they're like, oh man, we should kill the monsters. And then a couple seconds later, like, wait, no, the other dude's the jerk, the bike riding little
Yeah.
mustachioed kid. And you're like,
Sasha, because I love the fact that it's
it's
Sacha Baron Cohen is like,
yeah. But where they have that brief moment where like, no, actually, we like these monsters better than you. Just get out of here. And
I
that's
think
like,
as well. I think as well. It's like the dad kind of stepping in and kind of protect, because he's obviously finds something in Alberto, the fact that he needs someone, and that kind of he got that thing, because he obviously was, because he was worried about him when he went missing, because obviously they made that connection, because obviously
Mhm.
Alberto had lost his father and all the rest of it, and I like the fact that he just stood there, you don't touch these kids kind of
Yeah,
thing, and
but it also, it wasn't heavy-handed. I love that they
yeah,
carefully avoided, why is your arm missing? Oh, I lost it in a battle with a big, no, I was just born
yeah,
this way, I
yeah.
didn't have an arm. Because they could have definitely gone with the like, I hate all sea monsters and they're evil and I will hunt them down. And instead of just like, yeah, I kind of want to get rid of them, this reward for him. And then when he's actually confronted with him, he's like, no, I'm going to be a father figure to this guy.
And I just like as well. I mean, after the fact that they went off, he ran off on the train and all the rest of it, and it kind of ended with them kind of separating, but kind of still being best friends and stuff. And I think just as a whole, I also enjoyed the fact that some of the sea monsters have actually been going, like the grandmother's been going there
That was
every
nice.
weekend, and there was already some people already living there undercover kind of thing, which I thought was just kind of fun. And again, it's a real fun movie, and I really hope a lot of people check it out over the weekend. I'm sure it's going to be massively popular, because I think this one's going to have a lot of repeat value.
It is. Also worth pointing out, there is an end credit sequence. It's not particularly important, but it is kind of cute if you
Yeah.
want to sit through that.
Yes, I missed that one there, so I'm going to go back and watch that one. So now let's talk. Now we're going to do we'll do Bad Batch next. Another great episode, another cameo of the week. I really enjoyed, again, another solid episode, lots of action. We finally got to see a little bit more of confrontation between the Empire and Crosshair, kind of getting involved, and kind of again, I can't get over how good this series looks. I mean, when you look at it, you can literally see the paint, like the brush strokes down the masks, where they, and I just think that looks so cool of how they've done it. Bringing in Bane, was it Cad Bane?
Cad Bane. Mm-hmm.
He got out the ship and I'm like, yay!
Yeah. Cad Bane was one of my favorite characters from the Clone
Yeah.
Wars series. So it was great to see him. I wonder how far they're going to push his story, because that was one of the stories that was on the chopping block when Clone Wars originally got canceled. And they've released animatics and storyboarding from that. So I don't know if they're going to try and adapt it. It wouldn't really fit in this, but if it gets a second season, I could see them trying to throw it in there. Either way, love seeing him. And more importantly, getting him to actually be, scary and impressive.
Yeah.
A lot of times the bounty hunters, they can't win even when they're like Boba Fett, but having Cad Bane have a moment where it's like, no, he took down this very important character who we know is extremely skilled, just as and it wasn't cheap. It wasn't like, I'm going to prove that Cad Bane is good by taking on it. No, it was like they built up the tension and they showed how it works. And like, no, he earned that win.
Yeah. And also, I think it's going to get Omega kind of separate them a bit and set that all up. And also, Crosshair's even more annoyed now, which we needed that to happen as well.
It needed to be more than just the chip motivated him.
Yeah.
He needed to have a moment where he could have won and he lost, and now he's like, oh, this will not stand. I need to get my vengeance, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I also like the fact as well they kept it on the Wrecker planet. I'm glad that they kind of didn't fly it, because this show was bordering on that thing of like every episode, let's put them on a different planet. I'm glad they've actually stayed here for a little bit. I think that definitely helped and build up that one. But again, really enjoyable episode. Got to the end of that one, went, yeah, cool. That was fun. And like you said, little cameo. We're getting all the this is connecting all the dots and just putting everything together. Yeah, and I just enjoyed that.
Which is both its biggest strength and its biggest weakness, because even now, we mentioned it last week and the week before and the week before, it really does seem like the cameos are the important part, and I still don't feel like I know these Bad Batch characters very well at all. How are Tech and Echo different? I still don't know. Echo's got a droid hand. That's about it. Plus, we've also, obviously, Echo was an important character in Clone Wars, and Tech is new, but it's like,
we didn't.
They're not growing as characters right now.
No. Wrecker and Hunter kind of seem to be definitely are, and they're going to be pushing them to forward. But yeah, the two. I mean, they're not even technically, because they're obviously Tech was one of the Bad Batch, where Echo isn't technically one of
right. Yeah,
So
no,
that, yeah,
he joined later, obviously. The other important thing is, in addition to them pushing forward the story with Crosshair, we also got more information from the Camino side,
yeah.
where they talked for a little bit. So while we've been doing Monster of the Week for the last
Mm.
several episodes, this finally pushed some of the actual story forward, and I think that helped elevate this episode
Yeah,
above some of the other ones.
it's a great episode. Let's do the finale of Big Shot. So this one ended up, I think we all pretty much saw where this was going a mile away, in terms of they win and then they stay. And, that's kind of what we probably could have picked that up from episode 4. I think they did a good way of getting there. They also did a very good job of showing how you can film a basketball event without having any fans in attendance during a pandemic by completely cutting out that entire scene, which
I
I am not opposed to, because as someone that doesn't like sports like that, I'm really glad they just went, oh, you know what? We're not even going to do the whole
well,
like thing.
to be honest, they didn't just cut the crowd out. They just cut the basketball game out. They're like, yeah, and we're going to jump to the last 4 seconds where it's tied. And the play that we've been hyping up this entire episode will now be important. And it was literally like 5 minutes. And the rest of the episode was drama.
And I'm glad they did that. I actually, to be honest, it's like it, and it really has felt like the last few episodes. I mean, the basketball aspect to it has been completely, it's a driving force, but it's not what you're tuning in for. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Lots of movement in terms of characters, and also just kind of development in terms of how the characters have all moved along and where they are. And obviously just with the coach kind of just stepping up and going, no, I actually need to stay here, and it's not about me. And I think as well, almost that thing of like, actually, I kind of like it here, but I didn't really want to admit it.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
I mean, we knew where it was going. It was really just a question of what was going to push him over the edge. And they handled it pretty well. It's corny at a certain point. And his speech was definitely corny, but it was overall handled well. And all the little bits and pieces that pushed him there slowly throughout the episode, it's well done. It's not going to surprise anyone.
no.
You knew where this was going to go from like episode 4 when they first introduced the I want to go back to college basketball storyline. But yeah, and lots of good character moments. And I liked how they tied in the one girl finding out her mother was actually her aunt, and back and forth, and tied it into the coach's journey as well, of like, oh no, this is actually an important thing, and it's important in my life too.
Yeah, and I mean that's been rolling on for a couple of episodes. I think just how all the characters all had something going on. There's they kind of opened it up for a second season. I did an article yesterday. There is kind of apparently talk of a second season, saying that nothing's been officially announced. On one hand, it's like it opened it wide open with the other coach going off to the other team and then obviously having a competitor. But I also kind of got to the end and went, actually, if they never did a return, I think they've actually left it in a good place. I was kind of like, they've set up a second one, but they kind of left it as well. If we never saw another episode, I kind of feel like I got enough closure.
Yeah, I felt the exact same. In fact, I had almost literally the exact same thought, where it's like, if season 2 doesn't happen, I'm perfectly satisfied with where things end. But if they have a season 2, I will absolutely tune in and look forward to seeing where they go with that storyline and see what else develops into it.
No doubt about it. Big Shot is probably one of the better Disney Plus original series we've seen so far. From the Disney side of things, I kind of think it's probably the best. I mean, I'm trying to think what other ones we got. Yeah, so out of all the Disney side of the drama side of things, it's easily the top one. There's no doubt about it. It's like, and I know we've got like, you got The Right Stuff, which is a really good series, and I think Big Shot was much better at playing with the emotions a little bit. I think they obviously got a little bit of different tone, but those two shows, both of which have, maybe didn't do as well, because I don't think the audience is used to this kind of show being on Disney Plus, and I feel like history's repeated itself with that one a little bit of, a little bit more, because I do feel like, especially like internationally, Disney shows on Disney Plus have a problem of identity of trying to get out to the audience, because the audience they're looking for isn't looking for it there. And and that's the problem. And it's too a little bit too mature for kids, so they're not tuning in, and the adults aren't aware of them because they're going to need we're ultimately going to need multiple shows like this to kind of prove the point. Here in the UK and internationally now with all the star side of things, I think we've got a much better chance of things getting picked up because there are adults in there watching it. But I mean, as much as it's just like, to get rid of the basketball off of don't push the sport aspect as much in the promotion of it. That's my one thing, because it turns people. If you're in a drama series, and I know it's a sports drama series, but if you push too much on the sports, it can push the people away you're trying to attract.
And it all depends on where you're marketing it to. As a high school basketball, there's probably a fairly sizable audience of people in America who are interested in a high school basketball drama, whereas international audiences significantly less so. It would be the same as trying to push like a rugby show in America. You can probably get a lot of audience for it, particularly in like Australia and things like that. But America's gonna be like, I don't want to watch a rugby show. That said, I think that Big Shot has a better chance of breaking into it and getting people interested in it over The Right Stuff, because The Right Stuff was very distinctly adult. While it wasn't like NC-17 or even R-rated, it definitely had very adult concepts. And as we know from emails that people have sent in, got that language that people didn't approve of. Whereas Big Shot, it feels like a Disney show, and there's nothing in it that I would have been like, no, this needs to move over to Hulu. This needs to move over to, one of the smaller Disney television channels. So not on the main channel, but one on the smaller ones like Freeform or something like that. No, I've been perfectly fine with it there. And I think if you can actually get people to watch it, then they will enjoy it.
Yes. Now, speaking of high school shows, let's move now on to a different one. Love, Victor. We got the first episode of the second.
That's not where I thought you were going.
So second episode of Love, Victor dropped onto Disney Plus internationally, and we'll be getting new episodes every week. Obviously, they're all available on Hulu, which is annoying because obviously I know there's a cliffhanger coming up, and I haven't got that far. And we know, we're about 2.5 months away, but we know something's coming on. But it's interesting with this one is, James, you've kind of jumped into this one to kind of catch up a little bit. What are your thoughts on Love, Victor? Because obviously you came into this completely neutral this week.
Yeah, and let's give a little bit of context too. I literally started it this past week. I got a Hulu subscription finally after complaining about it for long enough. And I decided, rather than just binging the entire season one, I would watch the beginning of season one just to get familiarize myself with the characters, familiarize myself with the basic premise beyond what's on the box, and then jump into season two. And of course, season two ends with a recap, or starts with a recap. So I'm not entirely lost on what's going on. If I had started with season one, episode one, I probably would not have bothered with season two. Season one, episode one did not grab me. Now, there might have been something in one of the, episode 2 or 3 or 4 where I've been like, okay, let's keep going. Season 2, episode 1, so the one that just came out on Star, but it, the entirety is on Hulu, whatever, was much better. I enjoyed this one significantly better. It ratcheted down the stupid drama and added in better drama. It's got the drama from the couple, obviously. They're kind of cool with where they're at. But I really appreciated that the parents had a whole arc within this episode of them coming to terms or not with the situation, and then going from that. I appreciated they handled that well. It did not feel like here's drama, forced drama. It actually felt authentic, which was more than I could say for season 1, episode 1.
Well, this is the thing is, I mean, we had season 1 drop weekly from when was that? From when Disney Plus launched. So it was kind of it was kind of weird for all of us, internationally. We went through season 1 and it only finished a couple of weeks ago. So it hasn't really been too much of so we've obviously had time for it to grow, and then but when you go into season 2, now this is no longer a Disney Plus show, because the first series was made for Disney Plus, and it was a little bit younger, a little bit skewed, a little bit younger. There's some. but they then went, oh, it's a little bit too risky for Disney Plus, so we're not going to put it on there. Now, you watch this here now, and you look at it and go, for me, it's like, and there's a couple of scenes coming up in later episodes which you can see why they maybe, you know, comparing the kissing in Love Victor season 2 compared to High School Musical and Big Shot is very different. There's a different intensity, but it's still, you know, still just kissing. And there is that kind of thing. You can say that with the second season, they knew that they could push it a little bit more, and so I think they had a little bit more freedom in making it, and I think it has made the show better because they know that they're going for that little bit of audience, and they didn't have to hold back because of Disney Plus US.
Yeah,
for us, we still got on Disney Plus, but yeah, they didn't have to hold it back and hold the reins in a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think the reception of season 1, which was mostly positive from what I recall, kind of emboldened them to push it a little bit more and actually go with it. Plus, they were able to get the feedback on what people were enjoying and what people thought was stupid. And you can definitely tell that they're moving into issues that feel more real, feel more like what modern teens, because admittedly my impressions of season 1 are very short, but I was kind of like, oh, you're definitely going the High School Musical. We are going to like emphasize everything to the nth degree, which to be fair, teenagers definitely have a tendency to amplify everything. But with season 2, you still get that from the teenagers, but the parents felt a lot more level-headed even when they weren't agreeing.
Well, that's something that will come into later episodes, because I've seen the first 4 episodes as part of the screening thing. So I'm gonna have to wait a few weeks to like listen to the episode.
And that's a decent place to insert that. While I could watch the entire series from front to back right now, I will go at the pace that it's releasing on Star.
Yeah, it's kind of this like weird thing of I think it's a really cool show. It also shows that little bit of more maturity in terms of high school content, of what is that kind of thing, like, to me, like if you're doing a show aimed at teenagers in high school like Big Shot and, you know, this one, and even a sense like there needs to be a little bit more realism in it, because like I don't feel like I get that from High School Musical. High School Musical, the series, is they're all 18, probably actually more, the actors are all in their 20s, but they're still acting like they're 12. And that's kind of like, I'm 18 and I do all this, and I'm still 9 years old. There's like everything super plus, and it's a little bit like, oh, this is so. It's kind of fuzzy and lovely, and it's all nice and jazz hands and all the rest of it, but there's not enough. There's no grit in it. I mean,
you can definitely tell that both of these shows took very different philosophies. High School Musical is supposed to be whimsical. I mean, it's right there in the title, but it's written from the old school soap opera mentality. We are going to take what is a normal everyday problem, and then we're going to have everyone react to it in the worst possible way and the loudest possible way. I mean, it's soap opera 101. And they do it over the course of the entire season, and they amplify it, and they just like, how much drama can we get out of one stupid situation? Whereas Love Victor and also Big Shot kind of straddled it. Sometimes would go one way and sometimes go the other, but these are much more, the drama speaks for itself. We don't need to give it a loudspeaker because you will understand that this is a dramatic moment.
The question is, did you enjoy the Love Victor season 2? Yeah. So
I did.
So is that a good thing as well? Like moving onwards of just like, you know, if you enjoyed the show, because I mean, like, you know, like you said, you know, you're done with High School Musical.
I am done with High School Musical. I gave it 6 episodes over 2 different seasons. It did not click with me.
No.
I understand that it is immensely popular. It just doesn't.
It is at the bottom of my pile now. It is very much at the kind of the last one I watch. It's kind of funny. On the Fridays now, it's like Bad Batch, Grownish, and then it was High School Musical. And then obviously next week we've got Mysterious Benedict Society, but we'll talk about that next week. Right, so let's now move on to the big one. Loki, the second episode dropped on Wednesday. I've so got to get used
to habit.
saying, and I did it. I keep typing Fridays because when I'm doing the dates, it's like coming out on. No, I've been so used to writing Friday 100 times a day. The date email. I was like, no, Wednesdays. Yeah, so we've got the new episode on Wednesday. Now, I did see it last week at that London premiere, so I watched it on the big screen with lots of people around. I did watch it again yesterday, just because I wanted to watch it like again, just refresh myself. And it's like this was such a great episode. This was really just hitting. It really got they got the story moving on so much faster. We got established who the villain is. It established Loki of what his position is, and I just really we got the fun side of Loki back. That was what I enjoyed, because that's always been the cool thing I liked about Loki. It was the fun side of him. I know him being a villain, but him being a villain but being cheeky with it. I like that aspect of him, because he's mischief. That's what you want. Mischief doesn't necessarily, I know he's he's a killer and all that, but mischief, to the Lord of Mischief, is about causing problems and playing with things and having a bit of fun with it and having fun while you're going along. I don't think of the word as mischief as evil. I don't know. That's kind
of and that was a problem that the comic book version of Loki encountered, I don't know, about a decade ago at this point, where he realized, he looked back at his career and he's like, I'm not the god of mischief anymore. I'm just an evil god. There's nothing fun. There's nothing trickstery about being evil all the time. It's no longer a trick if you're always expected to be evil. And so he morphed into the character that we kind of know now of, am I good? Am I bad? Mostly I'm just doing it for me, and I'm going to do it in a way that you don't expect, which leads me into my first point, though, which is I'm really enjoying that Owen Wilson's character is able to stand up to him.
Yeah.
You can tell he's got those moments where he's like, oh yeah, no, this makes sense. Oh, wait a second. Who am I talking to? You know,
not just you.
But we've never really had that in the Marvel universe until this point. Sure. At the end of Thor Ragnarok, Thor has finally kind of gotten, you can't trust Loki. He's throwing beer cans at him to make sure he's actually there. But there's nobody in the MCU who is just like mentally able to keep up with Loki.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, especially with Agent, I mean, I really love like Owen Wilson as his. It's something about the way he talks. This is I don't know if it's his southern drawl. There's something about him, to me. I just find him fascinating when I'm watching, and then and he's doing the whole thing that he does in every, and I just like that, and I'm really enjoying how it connects with Loki. Like that his style and Loki actually do work really well together, and you are getting that, like, that typical, like, I would say, like, good cop, bad cop, the buddy cop kind of situation between the two, and hopefully we'll see more of that moving onwards. But I really enjoyed that whole aspect, and this episode, and the whole thing of him, like, Loki realizing that he needs to do something to survive, and he's doing what he needs to and playing the game, trying to get there, trying to do what he wants, and just having a bit of fun. And I don't know, obviously just not wanting to be killed. He's just trying to exist, and he's trying to work out the best way he can with multiple angles, because he is always 10 steps ahead.
Well, at least he thinks he is. He might not be in this case. And
no,
not just for Owen Wilson's case either.
No.
But one of the things I really appreciate about this episode, though, is and really showcases the talent, not just of Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, but of the creative team behind this, is that like 80% of this episode is them talking in a library.
Yeah.
Like, it's going through records, sure, interjecting with the librarian or other people walking around, but 80% of it is them doing research, and it's incredibly entertaining and engaging all the way through.
It was funny. There was someone who put a comment on the Facebook group, oh, this was so boring. There was too much talking. I fell asleep. I'm like, that's the best. Is like, this is what is great about it, is you can't, just because it's not got explosions.
I mean, yeah, if you're coming into this and you're wanting Loki to be Avengers Loki, where he's twirling daggers and he's riding on the back of a carriage and shooting stuff, yeah, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. But we've still got four more episodes where the action can kind of step in, and we see how the action's popping in. But yeah, no, this is a dialogue episode, and it's fantastic as a dialogue episode. But if you don't like dialogue episodes, you're not going to like it.
I think this again is where the series would, if had this been a movie, they would have really had to cut this whole thing would have been really shortened. But I think having that, and the episodes being like 45, 50 minutes extends that out a little bit. I mean, we are getting the advantage of them having a little bit more time to grow these characters out, especially, like him doing the whole thing with the library. And them going off into the past to test something. That's the kind of thing I don't think would have happened in a movie, because it would have just been too time. But him just messing about and just like saying to everyone, "You're all gonna die." Yeah.
And I will compliment Tom Hiddleston on his Latin in that scene too. Now I haven't studied Latin since like 7th grade, but it sounded good to me, and that's all you really need in that scene.
Yeah, I just, again, there was so much about this episode I really enjoyed. I definitely I actually feel like, because I've watched every episode twice now, and I kind of actually feel like this is a show that I probably am gonna have to. I know, like with WandaVision, I did that as well with some of the episodes to try and catch everything, because there's so many secrets. But I didn't feel like I needed to do that with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Whereas with Loki, it's like, oh no, this is just a good one to go back and watch, maybe before the next episode drops again on Wednesdays. But yeah, I mean, like the whole thing of them introducing Loki, Ira's Lady Loki. We don't know how they're going to do all this one here, and also toying with the idea that there's all these different versions, like Hulk version, and different. That's one way of kind of them playing around with the different variants versions of them. And this could be a cool way of kind of continuing on Loki. And just that whole thing of just bombing the main timeline. We don't know what chaos has come up out from that. You can tell from that scene of they are literally on the lines of emergency, all hands to deck. Something massively is going wrong. How is this going to set up, Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and all the rest of it? Is this going to have a massive impact on the multiverse? We don't know where this is happening.
I'm gonna hold my breath on that one, because we've seen WandaVision, we've seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we don't really know what long-term impact they will have, but you can tell from the end of them, you're like, okay, so the long-term impact of Falcon and the Winter Soldier is he agreed to take the shield and become Captain America. But if you hadn't done the series, we would have just assumed that he adopted the shield at the end of Endgame. And WandaVision, okay, it brings Vision back, but we were all expecting, it's going to open up, the multiverse, and it's going to open up. Doctor Strange is going to lead right into it. And like, oh, well, she's just kind of off in the mountains.
I definitely feel like this one is not just. I mean, this has opened up the multiverse in terms of they've explained it. Explain how it works. I mean, they've done that's the whole thing with the timeline and the motive. And I do feel like and the variants. We're obviously going to hear the word variant, I think, coming in.
We need to get that. We need to get that variant jacket. I know that they listed it on the.
It is out. It is out.
I know. I saw it listed on the week 2 merchandise list. I was like, oh, of course that's going to be on the.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the Infinity Stone desk weights though.
I bet they're coming. But again, a great episode. Really enjoying this series. It is, to me, it feels in a different category to the last 2. I feel like I'm watching something. I would say it just feels better. I'm just enjoying it so much more with Loki. It just feels like on a different level than the last 2 Marvel shows.
Yeah, and we even said that back when those shows came out too. It's like WandaVision feels like more of a movie, and then Falcon Winter Soldier was like, oh, well, this is Captain America 3.5 or something like that. It's a great action movie. But Loki, they're really pushing it. The special effects, obviously you can see some of it going on, like the creation of the city that they're in and whatnot, but even just subtle small things going on, you can tell that they've put a lot of work into it, and the story is on a different level. But it is impressive how we're on our 3rd show now, and they're all completely different from each other. Both WandaVision and this one have that mind bending, what's going on, what are the secrets, but its approach was massively different. It's like, we're going to do it with a throwback to the sitcoms, and this one's just like, no, we're going to go completely off the wall. We're going to play with time, and we're going to manipulate all sorts of stuff. And of course, Falcon and Winter Soldier was an action buddy cop movie.
And then we're going to see a massive shift then with Miss Marvel and Hawkeye and What If. I mean,
What If by itself is
So again, just a really great episode. Just it is that kind of thing of like, just look at all the content that we're getting at the minute. you know, like I said, and then we've not even gone into the star stuff, but you know, a nice selection of stuff there between Luca, Loki, Bad Batch, High School, you know, just choice, and that's ultimately what we all want. But yeah, so Loki, another great episode. Let us know in the comments below what you think of all of this. Remember, you can go check us out over at what's on at disneyplus.com. We'll do another live Q&A on Sunday night where YouTube members can join in live on the chat, and also both Patreon and YouTube channel members have been able to put in their submissions for questions for this week. Also this weekend we've got a review of Monsters University that will be going up on Sunday. You'll find it on a different podcast feed, so if you're trying to look for that one here, I have separated away from one another. And yep, next week look out for some interviews with Wolfgang and also the Mysterious Benedict Society. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. We'll see you guys soon. Later.